When I first started photo editing, I thought it was all about cranking up the saturation and adding contrast. And here comes the trivial spoiler. I was wrong, and my images looked terrible. Today I'm sharing the 7 concepts that completely changed my photo editing game and can do the same for you. I'll be using Lightroom, but you can use any modern photography software including mobile apps. Let's get started. When I first start editing a photo, I need to make sure it's manageable and has a chance to be shown to the world. So I take a look around to make sure there's no dust spots or rain spots or unwanted people or objects. So in this photo, there's quite a few people, so I can click on the remove tool here and it has the remove tool selected. I can zoom in and then I can just brush over these people here to remove them. And right now I'm using Lightroom's generative AI to remove these people. So it does take a few seconds to process, but as you'll see, it does a really good job. The one issue is there's a lot of people here, so it can take quite a bit of time. The other thing I can do though is use the distraction removal tool right here at the bottom, and then I can click on the people drop down and it automatically selects all the people. And I can click on remove and it does a pretty good job. As you can see, there are a few unwanted objects remaining, so I can go back to this remove tool, uncheck this generative AI because I don't need generative AI for this because it's pretty easy to remove. And then I can easily just remove them just like that, including right here, and just click on remove and there you go. So it's pretty quick to remove all the people in this photo. I always check if an image has enough sharpness, detail, and not too much noise. This image, it looks fine from afar, but if I zoom in or I decide to crop in or print the image, you can see it has quite a bit of visible noise or grain, and it's not as sharp as I would like. So what I can do is go to the detail section here, click on denoise, and it automatically reduced the noise pretty good. But what I can do is decrease the noise a little bit more to my liking, so that looks a little bit better. But you can see the edges of the building, it doesn't have enough sharpness and it doesn't have detail on the walls here, so I can increase the sharpness like this. But when I'm increasing the sharpness, I can sharpen the noise as well. So one way to fix that is by using this masking tool. I'm going to click, hold, and drag while pressing the Option or Alt key, and that way it'll detect the edges and I'll be able to avoid sharpening the noise. So that looks a little bit better, but the edges do look a little bit cooked. So I'm going to decrease the sharpening like that. And let's see if I can add some detail to the image or to the edges. And I think it does a subtle job, but for now it looks pretty good. So let's see the before and after. Before and after. So with a little bit of noise reduction and sharpening in Lightroom, this photo looks a lot better. You can't see it when you're zoomed out, but it definitely makes a big difference once you crop in or you decide to print this photo on a very large paper. In its simplest definition, white balance is the appearance of the color white in an image and ensuring it appears white. And I know white isn't a color in science, but for the purpose of this video, it is. Ambient and natural light or lack of light can change white to a different shade. The white balance can also change the mood of a photo. So this photo is a sunset and we can see it has like a yellow or orange hue and it gives like a warm mood to the photo or to the image. And under the basic panel is the white balance section right here, which is measured by temperature going from blue to yellow, and that's usually measured in Kelvin. And then there's also this tint slider, which is going from green to magenta. So this photo right here, I can make it warmer by moving the temperature slider to the right, and you can see it looks a lot more hotter or warmer. But I can reset it by double clicking on this slider, and I can also add a more of a magenta hue to it, or I can make it a little bit more green and dirty or like a pale sunset. I'm just going to reset this. The other thing I can do with this temperature is decrease the slider here and make it a little bit cooler. So I'm going to give it like a nice cool tone to this image. So it has like a cool or refreshing feeling to this image. So playing with the temperature and tint sliders, you can give different moods to the photo by changing the white balance. Another thing is I can use this white balance picker tool here, and I usually need to click on something that needs to be pure white or pure black or neutral gray. So for this demonstration, I'll click on the clouds because usually the clouds are white. And now you can see it automatically changed the cloud color to white there, but it also automatically changed the temperature and the tint in order to make sure white looks like white. So depending on the image, sometimes you need to correct the white balance, and other times you can just play around with it or leave it alone to just keep the same mood. Some images can be too dark or too bright. In addition, the dynamic range of a camera is limited compared to the human eyes. But we can correct exposure in an image using the histogram as well as some of the exposure sliders here. So this histogram represents this photo here, which appears too dark initially. And this histogram on the left hand side is the shadows, in the middle is the midtones, which are about 50% dark or 50% bright. And the right side is the whites or the highlights. So looking at this histogram, we can see that the whitest point is not white if we just look right here in this bottom right corner. So one way we can correct that is by using the exposure slider, and by brightening the image, we make the entire image bright equally and moving the exposure or the histogram to the right. So you can see this bottom right corner, the histogram has moved to the right now. But a better way of doing that is using these individual sliders right here. So instead of using the exposure slider, I can use the whites because I'm focusing on mapping the white point right here. So I can move this to the right just to about here, and now it looks like this corner or the white point is touching the bottom right corner. So this image looks a little bit better now. So the whitest point is now white. But now we still need to correct the shadows. It still looks a little bit dark here. So what we can do is, instead of mapping the black point like this, we can just increase the shadows and take a look at the histogram, how it's changing. And that looks a lot better now. So let's take a look at the before and after by individually moving the shadows and the white points. Keep in mind the white point and the blacks, it changes the white point and the black point, obviously. If we want to add a little bit of contrast, in other words, darken the image and brighten the image equally, or make the shadows darker and the highlights brighter, we can use the contrast slider right here just to add a little bit of contrast like this. And then maybe we can start correcting the black point here by moving it to the right a little bit and then decreasing the shadows, and then add a little bit more contrast, or maybe decrease the contrast just like that. So I think I like how this image looks for now. And these are just the basics of correcting exposure in a photograph, but let's take a look at the before and after. Before and after. So this histogram, since it's evened out with the exposure, it's considered a well-balanced exposure. But keep in mind, depending on the artistic touch you're going for, a histogram or the exposure doesn't always have to be balanced. Most people love vibrant colors, and so do I, but it's very important not to go overboard with the color or saturation. So this photo here looks pretty good in terms of a saturation and color, but if I want to make it a little bit more vibrant or make it pop, I can slightly add some saturation. So let's say I go up to about 10. So the saturation, it mainly increased the orange, but not too much of the blue or purple here. Let's see the before and after. Before and after. So it doesn't look as good as I want it. So I'm going to reset this saturation slider and instead use the vibrant slider. What the vibrant slider does is it focuses on muted or unsaturated colors. So I'll increase the vibrant slider and maybe I'll increase it to about 20. Now let's take a look at the before and after, before and after. So there is a little bit more saturation here, but it's impacting the orange and red here, but at a less significant rate. So if I increase it to about 40, it still looks pretty decent here in the top right corner, but not as good here. It's continuing to increase the saturation here. And of course, if I go overboard like that with the vibrance slider, it's too much. And if I go overboard like that with the saturation slider, it's too much. So I think just keeping the vibrance maybe around 25 or 24 looks pretty good. The other thing I can do is I can close this and then go to the color mixer and then individually target the colors right here. So right now I'll click on the color mixer, I'll click on the saturation, and I know there's blue and purple here because I can see it. So I can increase the saturation like that and then increase the purple like that. So that looks a lot better without targeting the orange here. So let's see the before and after, before and after. I'm just going to reset this sliders right here. And I can also use the point color or the point picker here. So I can click on that, click, hold, and drag up to change the saturation. So you got to be careful you don't go too much. And then I can increase this red and orange here as well. But since it's targeting the orange here, it's increasing the saturation here. So I'll just decrease the orange here and then increase the red here. And then maybe a little bit of the blue. So let's see the before and after. Before and after. So we gave this image an interesting fine art look. So if we look at the before and after. The other thing I can do is I can just reset the saturation here. And sometimes you also want to play with the black and white. You don't always need to use color. So I'll go to the basic panel right here, click on black and white. And now you can see this color mixer is changed to black and white. And I remember there was orange here, so I can decrease or darken the orange or brighten it up just like that. I'll go back to the basic panel and maybe increase the shadows and then decrease the highlights to give it an interesting look. So here's the before and after with black and white. So just remember, you have to be careful not to add too much saturation with the saturation slider, or sometimes it's better to use the vibrance slider, or remember to play with the black and white tool because you can sometimes get interesting looks with a monochrome photo. Masking allows you to target and adjust specific areas of an image. That's why it's called local adjustments as well. It seems like an advanced photo editing technique that only professional photographers do, but it's pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it. So with this photo, I'm first going to apply some adjustments. So what I think I'll do is I'll increase the whites just by taking a look at the histogram, and then decrease the blacks or map the white and black point just to correct the exposure slightly. And then I'll slightly increase the vibrance to about 15 and the saturation to about, let's say, 5. So that looks good. So right now we made some global adjustments. So now we're going to apply some masking or local adjustments to focus in on this subject and the face primarily. So I'm going to click on the masking tool here. And I'm going to click on the brush tool right here. And now you can see on the screen the brush. So I can change the size of the brush. I can change the feather, which causes or adjusts the transition of the local adjustment. And the flow and the density impact the rate and the opacity of the brush, but I'll just keep them both at 100. And right now I'm going to paint over this area right here. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag. And the red overlay that you see is where the mask is going to be applied. So I just painted over there. And just to demonstrate what the mask looks like, I'm going to decrease the exposure all the way to -4. So I'm impacting this area just to give you a demonstration. But I'm going to reset the exposure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the contrast slightly, increase the shadows, and then maybe even increase the saturation a little bit. And I'll go down here and then I'll increase the clarity, which will be the mid-tone contrast. Let's see the before and after with the mask off. So this is with the mask off, and this is with the mask on. So you can see with the local adjustment, it brings the viewer's eye more into this C line here. What I can also do maybe is decrease the black slightly, and then increase the shadows, increase the contrast. And I think that looks a little bit better. So let's see the before and after with this mask. Here's the before and after, before and after. So keep in mind, this was an easy mask that we just brushed over here just by using the brush tool. But as you can see, Lightroom has several different type of masks, including a radial or circular mask, as well as AI masks that can select the subject, which will be the C line in this case, the sky, and background. But once you get the hang of it and practice with masking, it's pretty straightforward, and it's a very useful tool when you want to make local adjustments. Cropping seems like a simple task, but there's an entire technique to this, even some science and math, from the golden ratio to the rule of thirds. So this photo is a flycatcher that's uncropped, and I'm just going to click on the crop tool here. And right now we're taking a look at the rule of thirds overlay, which is broken down into 9 quadrants made of 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines. The idea is to put your subject along one of these lines or in one of these corners. This includes landscape photos where you don't want the horizon in the middle. You usually want it at the bottom horizontal line or the top horizontal line, depending on what's in the foreground and background. We can also change the aspect ratio if we want here, but I'm just going to keep it free form. And since this bird is looking to the right, I want the bird to be on the left side of the image and maybe along this line or in this corner right here. So I'm just going to click, hold, and drag this bottom corner here and put its eye right there. And then as you can see, the grid changes while I'm changing the crop. And I think I want to keep it more of a horizontal or a landscape orientation. So I think this looks good. There's a lot of dead space here. Maybe crop in a little bit more. I like these nails here, so I'll keep this in. And I guess the corner right here will be on the bird's chest. And I'll just press enter to accept it. So this image looks a lot better. Of course, you can see a little bit of noise, but that's fine. But compared to the crop or compared to the uncropped image, you can see the crop puts a lot more focus into the bird, and it takes away a lot of this negative space in the background, and it's giving the viewer's eye a view or a direction to look at, which is from left to right, which is the same direction the bird is looking towards. So that's just pretty much how the crop in this scenario and with the rule of thirds works, but there are a lot more cropping techniques available. We just covered the basics of photo editing in a specific order, but keep in mind you can change the order of the adjustments you do depending on the photo you start with and the photo you want to end up with. For example, for cropping, if I'm cropping and putting the photo on Instagram, I'll usually start with a crop at the beginning. And Lightroom, and like many other photography software, they intuitively organize the adjustment tools in a specific order that you should start with. So you can see Lightroom, it starts with the white balance, then correct the exposure, and then add some texture, clarity, and saturation. And then you start getting into more specific tools. So always remember, you can change the order of photo editing to something that best suits you. And if you guys enjoyed this video, you know what to do. And as always, live easy, sleep breezy, and stay lovely.